Hello again, NBA fans. Welcome into our NBA Roundtable. My name is Matt Eppers. I am a digital producer at USA Today Sports, and I am joined today by our NBA reporter Jeff Zilgett and our friend Jim Ozarski, Bucks reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. There are only a handful of games left in the regular season, and we are back to go through some of the biggest stories around the league, trending in the news as we approach the playoffs. We want to try to sort through some of the contenders at the top of the East to start here. It's a very tight race for seeding, but it looks like the top four are going to be in some order. You know, the Heat, the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Sixers. And starting in Milwaukee, where the Bucks are sort of gearing up for their title defense, getting all their guys back, most notably Brook Lopez, who recently returned after missing almost 5 months with a back injury. Jim, you recently wrote on this for the Journal-Sentinel, but how are the Bucks trying to balance health and winning during these last few regular season games?
Yeah, Matt. I mean, first of all, the return of Brook Lopez is huge for the team. I mean, he's not going to move betting lines if you're into that sort of thing or change the national discourse. But internally, I mean, this team couldn't be more excited that he's back and what that could mean for them defensively, with moving Giannis Antetokounmpo back to his more kind of comfortable role as a sort of help side defender and just the things they can do. And look, you know, I think Serge Ibaka was acquired because of the interior strength of the East. Cleveland, you know, Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. But to that point of balancing, finding a groove and a rhythm with Pat Connaughton has come back as well. And being healthy, look, their big three each had missed games. Giannis Antetokounmpo with right knee soreness, Chris Middleton with a wrist, Drew Holiday with an ankle. Grayson Allen has had hip soreness this year. I would imagine Mike Budenholzer is going to try to pick and choose his spots, but stagger them a little bit. You know, a year ago, there were games where all three of the big three would sit, and it would be kind of a bench game. At this juncture, with the East as jumbled as it is, guys, I don't think the Bucks are just going to punt, so to speak, right? I think they want to play as many of the guys that are available, maybe pick and choose some spots for a guy to get a day off or two. They've got 2 back-to-backs coming up, at home against LA, which is after a Brooklyn game, and then on the road in Detroit, which is after a Celtics home game. So you would think they'd put an emphasis on the Nets and the Celtics and then maybe give guys a breather after that. So, They like to say they respect the game. They don't want to do the game dirty, if you will, and not, you know, sort of give best effort. So I think we'll see them do that. And if that means they win the East, I think that's a byproduct. I don't know if that's a goal because they definitely just want to be healthy going into the postseason and a title defense.
Let's move on to our next contender, and that's Miami. The Heat have been, at or near the top of the East for much of the season. But recently they've ran into a little bit of struggle, and that was before the sideline incident with Jimmy Butler, Udonis Haslem, and Coach Eric Spoelstra. Jeff, what have you seen from the Heat during this, little bit of a swoon that they've been in, and what do you make of that blow up between Butler, Haslem, and Spo? Is this something that they can easily put behind them, like they're saying they will?
Yeah, let me attack the first part of that. And look, teams struggle throughout the course of the year. And I will say that this Miami team probably at times overachieved during the course of the season, because we talk about all the teams that have had injuries. Well, this team hasn't been whole all year either. Kyle Lowry's been in and out of the lineup. Jimmy Butler has been in and out of the lineup as well. And now that they're all sort of getting back, and then they hit some rough patches, you can see where some frustration boils over a little bit. Now, as far as the impact, I don't think it's going to. Jimmy Butler's been this guy his entire career. Eric Spoelstra, he sort of thrives in conflict. I mean, we have to go back a decade, maybe to early on in his era with LeBron James, when, LeBron James stormed off the court. And we all made a big deal about a perceived shoulder that maybe LeBron threw into Eric Spoelstra coming off the court of a timeout. Spoelstra's no stranger to any of this. And for all this talk about Miami Heat culture that we hear about all the time, well, part of that culture that they have is being uncomfortable. I mean, they really preach that just as much as, being a team. And so I'm not saying that you're always going to thrive in that situation, but they're used to that kind of conflict.
So one of the other teams that is vying for one of those top spots in the East is Boston. And the Celtics have been arguably the best team in the East during the second half and, in that post-All-Star break stretch. They've gone from under 500 and the edge of the play-in race to potentially the top seed in just a couple months. Jason Tatum has been incredible. But the unfortunate news for Boston now is that starting center Robert Williams III has a torn meniscus in his left knee. He's going to be out indefinitely and quite possibly the entire postseason. Jeff, how big of a blow is the Williams injury for the Celtics?
That's a significant injury for Boston. You talk about them being the top defensive team in the league. They are right now. That includes all games. But then if you just look from, New Year's Day on, they're significantly better than the rest of the league defensively. And that's because they have defenders on the perimeter and then the inside. Obviously, Marcus Smart helps out on the perimeter, but so does Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. But then inside, Robert Williams just does a fantastic job. He's showing lots of growth as a rim protector, a paint defender. And so that's going to put a lot more pressure the remaining games and whatever games he's out for the playoffs on a guy like Al Horford and Daniel Tice. Those are two experienced guys. There's no doubt about that. But Robert Williams, the versatility he was able to bring to, also become one of these guys who can go out, defend the pick and roll at the top of the key, and then get back to the rim. That's an invaluable skill set, that you can't always teach. And so that's going to hurt them a little bit. They might, though, the Robert Williams injury notwithstanding, they might be the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, or at least the hottest team in the East headed into the playoffs. And I know we talk about Jason Tatum, and Jim and I talked about this recently as well on Jim's podcast. Jaylen Brown has had a fantastic year as well. I mean, he doesn't average that many fewer points than Jason Tatum. Shoots the ball really well. Maybe for a guy who's a 23, 24 point a game scorer, doesn't get enough credit for what he does on that Celtics team. And that's a credit to Jason Tatum having I don't know where he's going to finish. Is he a top 5 guy in the MVP race? Jason Tatum, I'm not sure, but certainly that they have some quality players on that team. And then I'll just wrap this point up of giving some credit to the Celtics players for sticking with whatever Ime Udoka, the Celtics coach, was trying to do, trying to implement. They obviously knew it defensively, but it took a little bit longer, I think, offensively to figure some things out, and they certainly have. Now, from just this point on, it will be interesting to see how they can cover up for the loss of Robert Williams, especially on the defensive end, but also when it comes to getting some putbacks, some lobs in the paint, some easy pick and roll points. He's going to be missed.
Let's close with one team out west, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers, the most talked about 10th place team ever. We know how bad things have gotten in LA. They're struggling to stay in the play-in race. Anthony Davis has been hurt. Now LeBron James is banged up. Is it time to stick a fork in the Lakers' hopes this season? Even if they sneak in as the 8th seed, do we really think they're going to make a whole lot of noise in the playoffs?
I mean, from afar, look, when the Bucks were in LA and they played at the Staples Center, and it was just, I remember sitting there along the baseline, and Anthony Davis was healthy that game, and it was amazing how bad they were. Like as a full compliment, and in a game against the defending champs who, at times have also been a little, in it or out of it mentally at times. And the Bucks were into that one, and it showed, and the Lakers were bad. And I, from my seat, it's the Russell Westbrook thing. I'll admit, at the beginning of this, guys, I thought it would work. Much like James Harden worked in Brooklyn initially last year, when people said it couldn't. I don't know what happened. Obviously, health is a big deal. It wasn't a good fit. And yeah, whether they somehow sneak in to the play-in, with the injuries and just a whole season body of work, guys, I don't know how they're anything other than, the fringe playoff team they've proven themselves to be to this point.
Hey sports fans, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of our other ones right here. And if you like what you see, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more from USA Today Sports.